girls, and welcome to Season 3 of the Hey Girl podcast with my mom, Bethany and Nina. Each week, guests will share their amazing stories of following Jesus on all kinds of journeys. I hope their stories inspire you to run your race in your place. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey, and welcome back to another week of the Hey Girl podcast. This week, I get to introduce you to a fairly new real-life friend. And the crazy story of how our paths ended up crossing, you'll have to wait for the episode to hear because there's just not enough time in this intro. But I wanted to use this intro to let you know a couple of things. First and foremost, we're so grateful that you listen. All of you who download these episodes and listen week after week, you are the reason that we keep doing this, and you are the ones that help us to grow. Every time you share the podcast, whether you tag us in a post, tell others about us, when you leave us iTunes reviews, when you comment on things, all of these things are helpful as we continue to reach new people and new listeners. And we're just excited because I don't know if you realize this, but we're actually still growing, and that's crazy. Season 3, we're seeing new listeners come every single week, and that's because of you. That is not a me thing. So let me just say thank you for all of you who take time to share this. When you leave iTunes reviews, you do those things. It is hugely helpful, and it actually helps put Hey Girl Podcast in front of other people that may not otherwise hear about us. So if you have a few moments today and you haven't already done it, or maybe you just want to go and do another updated review, it would mean so much to us if you would take time to put a review on iTunes. And then here's the deal. After you review it, go ahead and take a screenshot and send it to me on Instagram or make a post and tag me in it. And I would love to message you back with a thanks, because really, apart from you, I'm just a girl talking to herself in her little office. It's really a sad situation. So thank you who are listening. Now, today's episode, I'm introducing you to a friend, Nina Abdulla. Nina is actually from California, but her and her husband came out here in 2012 and planted a church in Boston, Massachusetts. The way that she talks about Boston and the people and the relationships, I just love her through and through. And honestly, I just want to say on the front end of this that you're going to hear her maybe give a little hate towards Dunkin' Donuts. But I have to tell you that shortly after she left, she sent me a text message photo of her holding a Dunkin' Donuts in her hand. And I just have to say, New England, you won again. Dunkin' Donuts, you win. And I'm not even a big fan of your coffee, but somehow we got her from refusing to ever drink their coffee to holding the cup in her hands, leaving the studio. Today. It was fantastic. You're going to love Nina. She is so sweet. I love her story. You're going to want to follow her on social media to see her beautiful family. And I am so excited that God called her family out to Boston and that he's doing an incredible work through their faithfulness in planting their church reality out in the Northeast, where, let's be real, most people from away from New England are not itching and eager to head to this region. So grateful that God laid this on their heart and that they were obedient, and can't wait to share her story with you. So sit back, grab a nice warm cup of whatever coffee is your favorite. I don't know, you may need tissues. It's always safe. Better safe than sorry. And enjoy this interview with Nina Abdulla. Okay, listeners, we are back with another amazing episode. No pressure, Nina. I basically just set the bar at amazing for you.
Thanks.
So on today's episode, I get to introduce you to Nina Abdulla. Did I say it right?
You said it right.
Bam!
It's not an easy one.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I kind of love, I'm going to call it our story which makes it sound kind of corny. But
Nope, I love that we have one.
Yes, our story. And here's how it started. I interviewed a friend of yours, Miss Katie Merrick.
Yes.
Who, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, God had brought her story and their family story to my attention through a friend of mine. Just really laid them on my heart. And as a youth pastor, I introduced their family, not them personally, but just through her blog and her writing, to my youth group. And we would spend Sundays praying for them and praying for Kate and her husband, having never met them before, but just knowing what they were walking through when Daisy was sick. Fast forward years later, I have this podcast, and I don't remember right now how I got connected with her, but was able to reach her. And she was so sweet and was like, yeah, I'll absolutely come on the podcast. And so we got to chatting. It was definitely like a very quick connection, like felt like we'd been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I was like, hey, if there's anyone that you know that you think, oh, you should interview them, you know, feel free to throw me names, whatnot. And the name that she threw me was her very dear friend, Nina Abdulla, because she's like, girl, she lives in Boston. And I was like, what?
So crazy, right?
Oh, so small world. I reached out to you. She gave me her info. And we ended up having coffee together in a super cute coffee shop. And then found out that that same friend that introduced me to Kate also had reached out to you or sent you an email or something because she found out your church was coming to Boston. And like, there were just the weirdest connections between people. And there we were sitting having coffee as though we'd just known each other. Like, oh, here we are. No big deal. Just outside of Boston. And I'm just going to tell the true part of the story. You've avoided me. Like, just because
That is not true.
Nina, I don't think you should lie on the podcast.
I knew I could never hang out with you again unless I did this podcast. So I'm getting it over with so we can be friends. Okay.
Okay, fair enough. Now I almost feel guilty. No, I don't feel guilty at all. Yes, we have joked that you were like, wait, what? I don't have a story. Like, what am I going to share about? And I just wouldn't give up. And I pestered you. And you finally gave in. And what's so fun is you actually drove out to my house.
I did.
You're in the studio today.
I love it.
AKA my bedroom. I hope you feel very bonded to me right now.
I do. There's your bed right
yes,
there.
there it is.
You're so bonded.
Up close and personal, y'all. So I am excited for this conversation. Excited to hear more of your story. And I'm just a big fan of when God does crazy things to bring people together. And I know that part of your story is the reason you're in Boston was to plant a church. And you guys are out here serving and just bringing the gospel and furthering God's kingdom. And as a New Englander, I get pumped up about this, like the work that you're doing, and really excited to hear more about it. But why don't you take a few minutes as we sit here and sip our coffee and just tell me a little bit about yourself, a little of who Nina really is.
Oh, I'm not sure you want to know that, but
Oh, I do.
I'm Nina, AKA Nina. It's spelled just like Nina, so I get Nina almost every day or anywhere that I am.
I called you that until I met you face to face.
Even people that like I've known for a long time will still say Nina. I am named after my great aunt. I think it's great aunt. It would be my grandfather's aunt who actually raised him, and her name was Aunt Nina. And apparently it's German.
It does sound German.
Right, it does. But then I've met several German people who I've said, oh, my name's German. And they're like, that's not a German name.
Wait,
so I don't know
way
what
to
it
disown
is,
you.
Right?
Gosh.
She just did not want me a part of their club, so.
Well, you don't look German, so maybe they felt like you were trying to steal their names.
Yes, it's in there. I definitely have some German in there, but apparently not my name. I was raised by my mom as a single mom with my older sister most of my childhood. An important part of my story, I guess, is that my best friend that I met in second grade, her name is Sarah. We just
were two little nerds who happened to connect right away.
I love
and
nerds.
just clung to each other. So we were best friends through all of elementary school, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. And by 7th grade, our parents had met each other at church, and my mom married her dad, which best friend became sister friend.
Wow.
Which was pretty awesome.
Kind of like every little girl's dream come true.
Right?
Whose parent is single, just so we're clear.
It wasn't quite as smooth as that, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
but we worked through it. We were raised in the church pretty much from the time I was 6 months old. My mom struggled through her younger life in various forms of addiction, but by the time I had come around, even though she continued to struggle some, we were in church. And I remember being in church from the time I was 6 months old. That was all that I knew. Very bubble-ish, kind of, just, staying within the Christian community. And, not the easiest upbringing, but God was in it. And God was all around it and all over it. And from a very early age, not having a father figure around, I definitely had this connection with God as Father, almost to the point where I feel like other people maybe didn't have it as much as I did. I don't know if that's presumptuous, but it was just like, he was so my dad. He was just like God, like he's my dad, and it's really not a big deal. So I clung to that from a very early age, and that's something that has sustained me. Yeah, I went to a private Christian high school, was a part of like our church youth group and Christian friends, and kind of just in that world. I feel like probably at the age of 15, I really decided this is my choice. And this is something that I'm doing, not because my parents are making me or I'm forced to come here, but my faith became my own probably around the age of 15. And I felt like this is how I want to live my life. I want to follow Jesus. I want to become a disciple. I want to learn. I want to do this on my own. Teenage years are just rough, but we got through them. But there wasn't very many, because I got married when I was 19, which at the time, we look back now and I'm like, Mom, like, what were you thinking?
Once you have kids, right? You're like, yes. Oh my word.
Yes. She's like, you just let me go get married at 19? I was just a baby. She's like, really? Like, I was going to stop you. So I feel like back then, all my friends were getting married young. Like, my sister got married at like 18, I think, maybe 19. Other friends that I was in high school with were getting married young. It was just like this Christian culture, you just get married and have babies kind of thing.
Wow. Were you in California?
Yes, I was this is in California.
Interesting, because I'm just thinking, like, I've heard of these things down south, like in the Bible Belt, in those Christian circles, but I've never thought about it. I don't know as much about California culture other than the fact that people think surfing and whatever. Yeah. But
everyone thinks like, oh, you're from California. Do you surf?
Yeah, it is. It's totally one of those, like, it's like the tall person. You must play basketball.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're from California. You must surf. But I find that very interesting, because I also got married young. Mm-hmm. But where we were, that didn't seem as common. We did have some friends, I will say, in our Christian circles that were, but it just seems less common than...
Yeah, and I think it maybe has to do with just time, too. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but this is back in, like, 2000. I feel like things are, even in those areas of California, things are just different. There's more encouragement to, like, pursue education and things like that maybe just weren't in my sphere of influence at the time.
That's a much better thought than I had. I thought it was just because we didn't want to have sex before marriage, so we all get married really young so we can have sex.
That was basically it.
I'm just calling it for what it is.
I mean, maybe that's not all of it, but that's probably a huge part of it.
I think about that a lot, and I'm like, why do Christians get married so young? Because we're trying not to have sex.
And that's kind of like why the older generation's like pushing them to get married young. Well, we'll just get married, so you don't do it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is probably a terrible reason.
It's a terrible reason.
But God is a redemptive God, just so we're clear.
Just to clarify, that's not why I got married. But...
Oh, that's why I got married.
No, stop. We're in your room. This is awkward.
Andy's gonna be like, I have to edit this entire episode. Oh.
Don't do it, Andy. Okay.
I'm sorry, carry on.
So I met my husband Al at church. This was like my home church. I was there from a baby, so people knew me well and I knew them. And Al came along when he was 21 and I was 16. So we have a 5-year age gap. And he had just come to the Lord, and of course I noticed him like right away, like as soon as he came to the church. But he was like a man and I was like a baby, and it was kind of weird.
Yeah, at that age,
You don't look
it
at
feels like a bigger gap.
16 and 21, you don't really. Yeah. So
Pretty sure it's a felony.
Pretty sure that's not okay. Girls, if you're listening, this is not okay.
Misdemeanor at minimum.
So I just noticed him as like a guy in the church, you know. He was around and we both just ended up serving on missions teams and serving around the church, and just ended up hanging out together once I was a part of the college group and a little bit older. Went super fast and just got married. At 19, and by the grace of God, it's been amazing. So shortly after that, we moved to Orange County, a little bit south of where we were both raised, and he went to a school of ministry, like a small 2-year program. We never used the P word, is what we called it back then, like pastor word. Because he'd be like, I don't want to be a pastor. I was like, well, then why are you in the school of ministry?
You may want to rethink your career path.
It wasn't ever his intention. He was a school teacher by trade, and God just led us here. We knew we were supposed to go. We went. He ended up being the youth pastor for a church down there for 4 years. During that time where we having babies. I had my first daughter when I was 23, and we have 3 girls who are no longer babies. It's just so crazy.
And they're so beautiful.
They are beautiful. They're so much fun. I'm so thankful for girls. Not that I don't want a boy, because I've always wanted a boy, but at this point I'm just like, we are such a girl family. I just don't even know what I would do.
Yeah.
I kind of never imagined like that I would be okay with being a pastor's wife. It's not what I had envisioned or was ever a desire of mine. It was almost like an anti, like I don't ever want to be that. And I've met so many women who are fearful of that as well. It's just like, I don't want to be a pastor's wife. So I remember around that time where it was like, a youth pastor's wife, that I can do. It's just not the same.
Because that's not a real pastor.
Right?
I can only say that because I was one.
You're just hanging out with high school kids, right? This is fun. So it actually wasn't until I met Kate, who you mentioned earlier, who is just completely insane in the best way.
In all the right ways.
She's wild and fun and crazy, and she just is who she is wherever she is. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my pastor's wife, and like I could maybe do this. It's when it first entered my mind that I could maybe do this. After the school of ministry and after youth ministry for 4 years, we ended up moving to Santa Barbara, California, which is back up north a little bit, but
yeah,
on the ocean.
One of my favorite places in California, just you know.
Me too. Maybe the best place in California. I don't know.
I literally told my husband when we were visiting California that there was no moment where I felt this tug of like, oh, I could move here, until we got to Santa Barbara. And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I could live here. Yeah, it is. Yes. Holds a little piece of my heart just from that one date overnight we did there. So
yes, me too. We actually lived in a little beach town called Carpinteria, which is where Kate lives as well. And it's just like 10 minutes away from Santa Barbara. We ended up moving up there and becoming a part of Reality, the church plant that was there, and they were planting churches from this little tiny beach town in Carpinteria in major cities, kind of all over. So we went up with the intention of knowing that we would eventually plant a church through reality. So we were supposed to be there for like a couple of years. We ended up being there for 3 years. And that is like, just in that short amount of time, that is like home for us. So when we go back, it's like, we were like there the shortest amount of time we've ever been somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's deep, and that's where we go. That's home to us. So that first year we do like a ministry detox, which was really crazy. So you just stop all ministry stuff and you just get a normal job and go to church. Which for someone that's like been in ministry their whole life, that's like it's a really big deal, because it's just like all kinds of identity issues and like all kinds of stuff. But it was probably, like, looking back, it's just one of the best years of our life. We only had 2 daughters at that time, and they were really little, and Al got a job like with a moving company, and we just like lived life.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but if you're, being in ministry, it's like your whole life is wrapped up in that. And it wasn't for this year. It was just loving God, loving people, like loving our family, going to church on Sunday morning and coming home after. And it was so restful. I'm just so thankful that that's the system that they had in place, and that we said yes, and that we did it. So during that time, we were, of course, praying like, Lord, where do you have us to go? And what's your next church plant through reality? And where are we going to be? And just not knowing. That's a long story, but we ended up in Boston.
First of all, I'm glad you ended up in Boston. I've never heard of this ministry detox before.
Really?
Yeah, never. And I'm sitting here mesmerized because I just left full-time ministry. We had been in it for many years. And I have had these thoughts recently and I don't know if God will end up calling me back to serve in church or whatever, parachurch ministry, but I'm like, man, this is almost like something people should do. Is exactly what you just described. Is I just needed, more than I realized, to go through all that identity and have all of that pulled away, and the rest, and then just loving God, loving people, loving my family. And I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not in any kind of a program.
Yeah.
But I have noticed this fall, because I'm coming up on a year, how much healthier I feel. And that's not even to say that I loved ministry. Like, I really loved my job at the church. And at the same time, I'm like, this was a really healthy, unintentional thing.
Yeah.
And when you just said that, I was like, people do that on purpose.
They do it on purpose, yep.
So is that part of their training for church planners then?
Yeah.
Okay, so then after the year, what is the next thing? Like, do you go right into planning a church, or do they first bring you into their own church ministry?
Then you go on staff after that year of detox at the church in Carpinteria as like the next church planter. So
Gotcha.
you're doing, your churchy duties and things like that, but your goal is to be sent out within a certain amount of time. How we ended up in Boston is just all kinds of crazy, like, little details. And
that was literally my next question was, so why Boston?
It was on our radar for like way back in high school ministry years.
Really?
Yeah. Like, someone had mentioned like New England being like, this is like back in 2008 or something, like being the most unchurched area in the US or something, and it would just pique our interest, and we would just tuck it away, and we would be like, and it would just come up, when God's like leading. Sometimes things are just like in front of your face all the time, and it was just like Boston, and songs and maps, and like there was just stuff all the time, and the whole time we're praying, Lord, where do you want us to go? Where do you want us to go? And it's just like, there it is. It's all over the place. And we're like, okay, fine, let's go visit.
Yeah.
And so we came like in February.
What year was this? February?
This is 2011.
Okay.
Yes, 2011, because I was pregnant with my third daughter. We came in February, and it was like this crazy, mystical, warm February day.
Wait, warm? Were you in Boston?
Yes. It was. Now we know that God tricked us, but
Yes. You know,
back
God wanted-
then we were like, oh, we could do this. Like, there was snow on the ground, but it was like, it felt like 60. It was just like, it was sunny, no jacket, just a sweater. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there was some moments while we were here where we were in the hotel room and like just looking over the city and like would open the Bible and there was just these verses and God was just speaking to our hearts like this is what I have for you. There's definitely been doubts over the years, especially probably for my husband. But, like, why did we do this? But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was God's plan for us and that we followed his leading here. It's not been easy, but
which is good
but
to
it's been
remember,
good.
right? That obedience to God doesn't mean that it's going to be the easiest path with the least
Totally.
resistance. And what year did you actually officially plant the church?
2012.
Okay, so the very next year.
Yeah.
And did you move your family ahead of time or was it like right at the time?
It was pretty close. We moved in June
Okay.
of 2012 and the church started in September.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it was just a few months. And that time was filled with like, the church does prayer tours. So like people come out here from Santa Barbara and from other realities and meet together and then break off into groups and just walk and pray like through the whole city. So that happened like twice. One of those times being right before the launch of the church in September 2012.
So you're out here, come all the way from California, and I don't need to know a lot about California to know that you have had to experience some major culture shock from where you came to moving here. But tell me, what have been some things that have been surprising? Both, I would say, not just all negative, like, oh my goodness, I was not expecting this, but maybe even like, oh wow, this is actually not as bad or better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Definitely something I wasn't expecting was winter.
Well, apparently God pulled the wool over your eyes on that one. You put out the fleece and he covered your eyes with them.
If you've never gone through a winter, you just don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So I had just never, I mean, I'd gone through what I thought was winter, but this was just next level winter.
And girl, you came right before the winter of 2013.
It was all of them. 2013, 2014, 2015. Everyone keeps saying every year. It's usually not this bad.
But 2013 in particular, so it wouldn't have been your first one, it would have been your second one, was the one that we had like, bam, bam, like 5.
Like the world record Boston.
My goodness.
Most snow in all of the history.
My kids, now that you're in our house, you'll appreciate this. We're sledding off the top of that barn roof straight down because the snow had built
so high.
all the way up.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was like, I'm not going to lie, I'm not like a huge fan of crazy, and it definitely brought some issues, but when snow is that epic, I kind of have a little bit of respect and appreciation for it, because where else do you see things like that? Where you're like, we were jumping off the roof. I put my dog in the yard one day, like her yard that she goes to the bathroom in, and then heard her barking, went out to get her, couldn't find her, and then turned around to find her running around the roof that she had climbed up the snow.
Oh my gosh.
Like she thought she found a whole new yard.
It was insane.
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
So you have really lived through a pretty epic winter since you've been
And
here.
I feel very privileged to have, to say that I did it.
Seriously,
Right?
you survived.
We survived.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so winter was surprising.
Winter, like the extent of
Understand.
it, the length and like the depth.
Yeah. The depth. The feet of snow. Yeah, fair enough. And it does drag on. I feel like that way every year. You're like, shouldn't it be over by now? So,
Yeah.
okay, what else?
There's definitely an appreciation though that I have for the seasons. I love the rhythms that it brings, just of like having summer be summer, where you're outside, you're in a different space, your backyard, you're grilling, your barbecue, but it's not all the time. So you really soak it up while it's there.
Oh, yeah.
And then fall, I mean, those 2 weeks are amazing. Are they happening yet? I think it's right now.
Don't blink. But
and then
it is
winter
gorgeous.
is just, it's a slowing down. Like, you're almost forced to slow down. And in a city like Boston, it's not easy to do. So
Oh, yeah.
your fireplace and warm things and coziness and early nights because it's getting dark at 4 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
So it brings rhythms to your year that I really appreciate.
Aside from Christmas Day, I don't think you can truly appreciate a day of rest like a good snow day.
Right?
Where, like, all of New England just shuts down.
Yes.
And really, we don't all shut down because you can still go get coffee because we're New Englanders and we pride ourselves.
And Dunkin's open.
Yes. That we're hardy and we don't, like, it doesn't shut down. But, man, when school's shut down.
Yeah.
And, like, you can just stay in your pajamas all... It feels like Christmas Day.
It does. It does.
It's a beautiful thing. As long as there's not, like, 5 of them in a row. Then you start to go nuts.
Yeah.
But...
Agreed.
Yeah.
We love snow days. Just not having to shovel the car out and get people to school and
Yes. No, I
save
agree.
it for the next day.
Yes. Other things that have surprised you? Anything else on...
I'm surprised personally, I guess, at the depth of, like, relationships that I've formed here. I feel like I have friends kind of all over, but my friends here have been deep. And maybe it, like, takes a while to get there, but it seems a little, like, less superficial. I guess it can seem like maybe like a harder exterior, but then once you get past that, there's like this depth and this authenticity that is just real, like so real. And that has been a huge gift to me personally and to our family. And, like, no pretense, like, just say what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
And just, like, the real deal. This is what you see is what you get. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good, but I love that about Bostonians.
Yes.
And there's just a depth, like a relational connection that goes beyond even, like, your faith or things that you have in common.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things we can get kind of a bad reputation for. Like, people maybe with, like, a quick experience or first impressions on that can be like, man, they're just rude. And because we tend to just say it like it is.
Yeah.
But once you get to know people and you realize, like, oh no, they're just actually honest and real with you right up front. Like, there's no warming up to that. You're just kind of like, and welcome, you're here, like, punching the face. But probably because I'm from New England, but I have a hard time going into environments where people put on a front because I'm so not used to that. Yes. And I'm like, I don't know how to filter. Like, I was not born with a filter. Yes. How do you do this? So I've always joked, like, God, you can't call us down south because I'm going to...
They're too nice.
I'm going to offend the entire Bible Belt. I remember getting, like, a speaking engagement for something down south, and my first response is, I can't do that. Like, they don't know what they're asking because I don't know how. Yeah. And it's this culture. And not that people don't ever, not that they don't talk out of both sides of their mouth ever or whatnot, but there is, when you have friendships or just something different and special. And when I hear people describe things outside of my culture, it's so foreign to me because I'm like, well, just tell them whatever. And they're like, well, you can't just do that. I was like, why? Isn't that biblical? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Oh, so true. So tell me, you're here now. How old are your kids?
My 3 girls are 14, 10, and 7. My 10-year-old is about to turn 11. So...
And you're 14. Is she in 8th grade or 9th grade?
Did I say 14?
Yeah.
She's not 14.
Are you making this up?
She's 13. Did I say 14?
You did. Or else I just heard 14. So is she in 8th grade?
She's in 8th grade.
Okay. Whew, we almost like bumped her into high school there.
Woo, close one.
I have a 14-year-old. Maybe I was like heard 14.
Maybe I said 14. I was actually just looking at a picture of one of her friends who just turned 14, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she turned 14. That seems so old. So maybe that was in my mind.
It could be. My son is about
13.
to turn 15, and I keep telling my husband, doesn't 15 sound old to you? Like, it sounds old to me.
It does.
The year before we start driving, that's crazy.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
It's going so fast. So fast.
We just need to pause. Stop feeding them. Maybe they'll stop growing. I don't know. Do something.
I think that's illegal.
So, pretty sure. Back to the felony issue. It all comes back to that. So tell me, Nina, what does your walk, your journey look like? Just a day in and day out. Because you are now a pastor's wife, whether your husband wants to be called that or not. He's officially there, and you've got kids at, I'm sure every age is busy at some, but you're kind of in my season where it's probably a lot of driving, a lot of activities, different things. What does it look like for your relationship with your father, God, and keeping that alive and moving forward in it, even in the busyness of all that you're doing?
Yeah. It looks like lots of podcasts. Just kidding.
You're totally a pro.
I actually have so many to catch up on because we've been on summer, so I haven't been doing a lot of driving, and now I have all this driving time to get all my podcasts in. But that really has been something that I've do a lot of driving. So I've taken my driving time and tried to make purpose out of it, which is where I pray and sing and listen to podcasts.
You do sing.
I do sing by myself in my car. Who doesn't?
I'm gonna put a recording device in there.
So my mornings are early. I'm up at, well, my alarm's set for 5:30, but I'm up at 5:50.
Preach. Preach.
And then it's just, hit the ground running with school and driving and everything. So I do take advantage of my driving times to spend a lot of that with the Lord. And early on, someone had told us, I think before we moved to Boston, they had said worship will be your weapon. And I come back to that all the time, because there's some days where it's just like driving really brings out like my anger side.
Do tell.
You can ask my kids. The other day, one of them said, "You could never be an Uber driver," and I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because you're constantly yelling at everybody." I was like, "I'm not yelling. I'm just having discussions with that car who cannot hear me."
Just helping them drive better.
Yes. So, anyways, back to the worship will be your weapon. Sometimes it will change everything. Just an amazing worship playlist of refocusing on all the right things, and that's something that I can even look forward to driving.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. I love the honesty.
Yeah.
Look at you. We've worn you down here, and like just saying it like it is. What's on your playlist right now? Do you have any that you're like, oh, this is kind of a repeat right now?
I do. I have, well, gosh, I might have to look.
I know I'm generally pretty terrible
I don't
with
remember the names of that thing. I tend to like have the same stuff and like wear it out, like until I like almost hate that song.
Yes, I'm actually the
Like, I
same.
can't do
I'll
that
play the
song
same
anymore.
playlist until I'm like, oh, okay, it's time
Yeah.
to change this.
So some of my ones that I'm loving is Hillsong, of course.
Oh yeah.
Anything that they do. Reckless Love is on there.
Way to get controversial on me. Gosh.
Aaron Keyes, Sovereign Over Us. Is that better? A little bit better.
Yeah. Are you friends with Aaron Keyes?
I wish. I don't think so.
Oh.
Why?
Because we know Aaron Keyes. I'm like...
Oh, I knew that. I did
like,
know that.
You've got to be kidding
Yeah.
me that this circle
You
goes
told me
around.
that last time, I think.
We're bringing you to Simply
And
Worship
then I
next time,
go old school, and I do like Fernando Ortega
Yes.
and Rich Mullins.
Yes.
Go way back. Maybe some Terry Clark every now and again.
Word.
So that's
I just got to interview Sandy Patty's daughter the other day,
my
and I was having all the feels of like, in my defense, I didn't know it was Sandy Patty's daughter when we started, and I was like, hold on a second.
Sandy Patty.
I know, I was like
crazy.
rewinding back. My mom was a huge like Sandy Patty fan. So fun. Oh, I like that a lot. Do you have a favorite podcast?
There's this one. It's called Hey Girl.
Oh,
The host is so amazing.
I was waiting for you to be like, the host sucks, but the show itself. I don't know. I hear she talks about sex, and it's really inappropriate.
In her bedroom while you're in her bedroom. Edit. One podcast that I will mention is called The Next Right Thing by Emily P. Freeman.
Ooh, I'm writing this down.
I just love it. And I think you will too. She's just very like, it's different. It's not like a conversational podcast. It's almost like, it's super short, like 10 minutes or something like that, and her voice is just like so soothing.
That might be dangerous on early morning drives.
She just speaks truth like into like the situation, and it's just I love it.
That I'm gonna look it up.
It's one of my current favorites.
I drive a lot, so it's going on the list. Okay. Anything else that you want to share before I start rapid fire questions? I know you're a notes girl. You totally have notes on your phone.
I do. I just wrote down like all the main points of my life, so I didn't miss anything.
Now I want to read through your list. I just want to know the main points.
You wouldn't understand it. It's all code. Code words.
It's in German, isn't it? Nina writes our notes in German. Love it. Okay. Then you think you're ready for rapid fire?
I think so.
Awesome. Okay. First question. This is going to put you on the spot because you're not like from New England, but I need to know how far we have influenced you.
Uh-oh.
You're going out for coffee. Are you stopping at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Okay. But let's put this on the record. I am never stopping at Dunkin' Donuts for coffee. Okay?
That was not where I thought you were going with that.
I am never. This is not going to happen. You will not get me. Granted, Starbucks is like not amazing, but I'm not doing Dunkin'.
Challenge accepted. I'm just kidding. I don't even drink. Dunkin's is not my go-to. So, fair enough. That's fantastic. You will never wear me down.
I mean, it's just crappy coffee. I don't get it.
I actually think Dunkin' Donuts has more the reputation for their donuts than the coffee itself. Sorry, Dunkin's, but really. Okay. Really.
I will eat a Dunkin' Donut.
Yeah.
And love it.
Yeah, because Starbucks, do they even do donuts?
I don't know. They shouldn't. Don't try.
It's not their thing. Stay away from that, Starbucks. Okay, so if you have to, say you're reaching out to Kate, and pretend she has cell phone service where she lives.
Yes.
Do you text her or call her?
Text. For sure, text. But I am... Okay, it's so funny that you asked it, because the last couple weeks I've talked to people on the phone, like friends. And I've actually...
Ignore the fact.
Do you want to answer that?
No. It's even like silence. Work is going down the crapper here.
They need you. The chicken. Something's wrong with the chicken.
Needs me. The chicken needs me. Oh, man. Oh, the Lord's chicken. Sometimes it just needs a little help.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry, go ahead. Text her. I waited to distract.
What was I saying?
I don't know. Squirrel?
Squirrel.
We were saying texting or calling.
Oh, I've had phone conversations recently with friends that I've always been like kind of anti-phone call. Like, don't call me because I'm not going to answer it. But I really have enjoyed them. So I feel like I want to like put that back in. I want that to like maybe be a thing again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have certain people I enjoy talking on the phone with, but I have to already be comfortable with them in real life.
Yes.
I feel super awkward in conversations where I either don't know the person well For me, if I can picture their facial expression, I'm totally fine over the phone. Like, if I know...
Yeah.
But if I don't know them well enough to, like, read them and I don't have their face and body language to go off of, the whole time I feel tense.
If it's, like, catching up with somebody, phone call.
Yeah.
But if this is, like, we need to exchange important information, text.
Yeah.
No need for that.
I feel you.
Okay.
Also, Voxer changed my life, but I talk about that a lot.
Yes,
'cause
I have that.
Phone calls, I hate that my life is such where it'll get interrupted, whereas Voxer... it's like an ongoing conversation that picks up and drops frequently, and it's fine. It's not rude.
What about Marco Polo? Do you have that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Marco Polo is Voxer video. So...
Stop it.
I know. It's kind of inconvenient because you can't, like, be doing other things because it's, like, your face. So you're recording a video.
That still sounds really fun.
I have, like, mostly with my family who's all over the place, but we have, like, this ongoing, like, video chat, basically. So everyone, like...
So, basically, what Voxer is to phone call, Marco Polo is to FaceTime.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
You got it.
We're giving a shout out to that. I'm getting somebody into a Marco Polo conversation with me. We're going to stare at each other's faces. It's going to be amazing. Okay, we're super slow at rapid fire, just so you know.
Okay, sorry.
We potentially might be ADD. Okay, tell me, long road trip. Do you prefer to ride or drive?
Gosh. It depends.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I would say ride.
Okay.
Unless the driver is incompetent.
I think that's fair.
Or a slow driver. I think I would just rather drive if it's a slow.
I forgot.
Yes.
You're an angry, aggressive Uber driver.
Yeah.
Your kid's words, not mine.
I know.
So tell me, what was the last book that you read and loved?
The last book that I read and loved. Okay. So the last book that I read was Girl Wash Your Face.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I really did like it a lot.
I should have said, you don't have to love it. Just even like it.
That was the last book I read. We just got back from a 3-month sabbatical, and I took, like, all of these books with me thinking I was going to have all this time to, like, read, and I did not have all that time to read. But I did read one book over 3 months. Good job. And that was the one I read. I really liked it. I'm going to give you another one. The one that I read before that was called An Intentional Life by Karen Stott. And I loved that one.
Ooh,
like
who's it by?
I read it. Karen Stott.
Okay.
Stott.
That sounds like my kind of book.
I read it twice because the first time I just read it fast and I didn't have a highlighter, so I went back and read it again, and I loved that one.
So then tell me, what was the last movie that you spent or paid money to see? Which could be the theater, or could also be like renting a movie.
That I paid money to see?
Yeah, as in you didn't own it. You either had to buy it, rent it, or go to the theater.
Does Redbox count?
Yeah.
Okay.
That costs money. Not a lot, but...
The last movie? Gosh, it was probably like a kid movie. I can tell you the last one I really, really loved.
Yes.
Was The Greatest Showman.
Yes. That is going to get the most... I'm going to start keeping tally points from whose is The Greatest Showman. Because it is winning. Greatest Showman.
Which is also my second favorite playlist.
It's so good.
And maybe could be considered worship songs. Some of them.
It's so good. People, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing with your life? Okay, so as you're watching a movie, if you could pick your favorite snack, what would you be eating?
For movies, I feel like popcorn just kind of has to be there. Just
keeping it old school.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it. I have one last question for you. Been really excited to hear your answer to this. Nina, who's your Hollywood crush?
Jeez.
You're from California, so you basically might have
like
even stalked this person.
I feel like you'll probably be surprised by this, and I almost don't want to say it because it.
Too late.
He's
kind of
old.
Too far.
He's kind of old now, so it's almost a little creepy.
Well, I've heard you go for older men.
Not this old. I have to say Denzel Washington.
Oh my word. I love Denzel Washington.
Right? It's kind of creepy. It's
not creepy.
Okay.
It's not creepy. Denzel Washington is a different... It's like Harrison Ford. I'm just going to put it out there.
There you go.
That I have had an old man crush on Harrison Ford forever. And he's so old. Sorry, Harrison.
If you say old man crush, it just makes it sound a little better. So
yeah,
we'll take that.
But Denzel and Harrison to me are like,
Yep.
yeah.
There's just no topping Denzel.
Oh my word.
Something.
He's so good. I just watched, I'm not recommending this in case people get offended, but The Equalizer 2, he's in those movies. So we went and saw The Equalizer 2. I'd never seen the first one. We were on a double date. It's super violent. Very, very, very bloody. But he was so good. So good. I'm like, Denzel, man. He just, yeah. Girl, I am not judging that.
Okay.
I'm in full support of this. Denzel and Harrison, you got it going on. So, well, this has been amazing. Did you relax?
I did.
Good?
I totally did.
I took a picture of her de-stress oil. And
it worked.
Yes, and it worked. We're so glad. Well, thank you so much, Nina, for being on the show and for sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm glad you finally convinced me to show up.
I'm glad I'm persistent.